What's up, lemon heads? Welcome back to another episode of From the Yellow Chair. I'm Emily.
And I'm Crystal.
And this week, we have finally gotten to sit back down. We have been in a busy show season, and we are actually back in our office. And so one thing we kind of want to talk about is how can we turn off the noise?
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit about I've gone, I've experienced, I've met, I've learned, and now what the heck do I do?
Yeah, like back to the real world.
Absolutely. So let's sip some lemonade.
Let's do it.
All right. So I told Emily, I said, let's talk about how to turn off the noise.
And I said, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I don't either. So I'll be the first one to tell you I'm not very good at it. My brain feels like it's constantly churning. But I think during a period of what we call show season, so tons of expos and conferences and classes, and they're online, they're in person, and you have them coming from your best practice group, from your manufacturer, from your other vendor partners. And it's just all this opportunity. And some of us don't want to miss out on it. Like some of us are social, so we like to see everybody.
Crystal.
And then some of us are just like really, we crave more information on how to be successful. And so we're just, like Emily mentioned, we're at the end of this season and we get a little couple of months break. But even now we're realizing we don't even really get that much of a break anymore.
No. Yeah.
Used to, it was pretty much September and October and pretty much March and April. And now just as more things have been added. So I thought we could talk today a little bit like, how do we turn that off? So, and when I say turn it off, like how do we just come back and actually make something of all of our time being gone? Because a lot of us, including Emily and I, it's time away from husbands, time away from children, time away from work. And some of us, like, listen, I ain't gonna lie. Emily and I were, I don't have a count. I don't know. I'm going to guess at least 6 or 8 shows over the last couple of months, which is a lot of travel because none of them were here where we are. But of those, we saw some of you at every one of those, or dang near every one of them. And so as a contractor, I know, it's time away from your team, time away from the daily concentration of your company. So it's good and it's bad. So we just thought we'd talk about 3 things that we think you can learn from show season to turn off the noise.
That's right. All right. Let's talk about the first one that I think is probably like a very key element for a lot of contractors, a lot of vendor partners that are going to these things, but that's networking.
So I know one thing. So even if you didn't physically go, so, for a while back in the C word 2020 days when everybody was doing online stuff.
Yeah, they tried their best with those virtual events and stuff.
Yeah, they tried. Even then, so even if you're going through like virtual training or in-person training, networking, which I want to define networking. I think networking is intentionally building some relationships with people that you don't know. Okay, so when you go to a show or you sit on a Zoom call, there's other people there. So you can't just hide in the corner. But some of you, this is not a problem that I struggle with. If you've ever met me, I could talk to this microphone by myself all day.
She can.
And Emily's gotten more that way now.
Crystal's rubbed off on me a little bit, but I'm still not on Crystal level.
I have not rubbed on you.
Off me. off.
But we have kind of, you just learn how good those networked relationships are. And so what that means is when the event is over and people are hanging out at the restaurant or in the bar or in the lobby, you should also be hanging out at the restaurant, in the bar, in the lobby, and not by yourself, but just interject yourself into groups.
Sure. Because a lot of people, they're in a kind of, it can be awkward, but a lot of people are kind of in that same thing. Like, should I follow them to the bar? Should I not? Like, I'm in this group and like, just go along. Like, they're probably more than welcoming and want someone else to join them too, because they're in an awkward situation as well.
It's not junior high mean girl most of the time. And so a lot of times you can just say, hey ladies, do you mind if I join you? I'm traveling solo.
And they're gonna be absolutely.
Yeah. Or if you're like me, hey gentlemen, excuse me. Hi, I have something to say. But what I just wanted to encourage people here is it's not just about being at the event. You have to intentionally engage in conversation. And I say this a lot to people. Real relationships are built outside of the actual event.
Yeah.
So we went to a city, Phoenix, and I got in later, but I met up with Emily and some of our other team, and they were sitting outside of someone else's hotel, like in a bar area around like chips and dips on a table. But there was good conversation.
Yeah, there was
going on. And some of them are our existing clients. Some of it, my brother was there. And so there was just a good mix of people, but you learn more there.
Sure. We kind of say more deals are made over a dinner table than almost anywhere else, you know?
Yes. And so vendor wise, but if you're a contractor too, you know, so if I'm a contractor and I'm sitting there and let's say you're talking to someone that's smaller than your company revenue wise, then you can say, hey, let me tell you about when I was at 1 million, right?
Yeah.
But also what you're trying to look for is people that are slightly, if not a lot larger than your company revenue wise, because their struggles are different. And it kind of helps prep you for what's coming.
Like you kind of want to always be in the middle, like middle of all the conversations, but then also in the middle of there's someone that's lower, not less than you, but like in a different stage that you were in. You're at that, so you can give and help mentor them. But then you got to have someone above you too. Like that's where you are striving to go to, what your goal is. So you want to always kind of be in that middle.
So what I like to do, and again, this is old school. So again, I'm going to show my age. I have a Popple on my phone. Where people can scan and it has a link tree connected and then people can see all of our platforms, and not just for me, but from the Yellow Chair as well, and Lemon Seed. So lots of places for people to go. But I'm old school. Like I love a good business card, but I really try to write something sometimes that reminds me, like the blonde-headed lady with the glasses that works for, you know, Carrier Enterprises, right? And like I'll make note, just little tiny things.
Or that I was with at the Italian restaurant.
Yes, something to help me remember. And then when I get back, this is what I wanted to encourage you about. When you get back, there's probably 2 or 3 people that you've met either over the whole show season or maybe even at a particular show. You need to follow up. Just send them an email. I just wanted you to know it was so great to meet you, Emily. I hope we can stay connected. Well, now you've shared your contact info and you've made an initial contact. And if it went certain ways, like, are you following them on LinkedIn? Are you friends on Facebook? You just have to start making the most of those.
Well, and so I made a connection at Women in HVAC a few weeks ago, and with this girl named Ashley. She's relatively similar in my age. We both started our companies right around the same time and stuff. And so she came up to our booth and just asked me a simple question, and we talked for a little bit. But afterwards, she sent me an email like, hey, thanks so much for sharing that with me. And I was like, hey, would you want to just like talk and like just to get to know each other more? And so we've already scheduled a standing monthly meeting for just 30 minutes, just quickly, get to know each other better professionally, personally and stuff. And it's just making those connections and being more than intentional, like, hey, good to see you. You know, like,
right. I mean, and listen, don't get me wrong. A lot of what we do is baby kissing and handshaking. Now, we're vendors, right? But as a contractor, that's also what you do. You meet people and you're like, yeah, this is not my dude, right? His style is different or whatever. So you move on. But sit in different seats, shake different hands, exchange business cards, take notes. And I'm always like, how can I come back with 3 good connections? Make those connections, come back and be intentional about those.
Well, and like one thing why we take our own team, but I think why contractors can do this too and try to get in different circles is just exposure can do so much. And you can't always like put your finger on exactly what it is that's going to make you better or something, but just being around and opening your mind to different ways of doing things, different ways of thinking can go so far.
Well, I was just at the Service Titan Toolbox for the Trades call center edition in Chicago, and you know I live in Texas. This is a big joke if you can't tell from our accents, but everywhere I go is the same time zone. Like I got to be going somewhere drastically different for a time zone to change. So I just was in a part of this conversation because I went and got my food at lunch, and I just sat down at a table of people that I did not know. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but I do love it. So, but I caught the tail end of this conversation where literally this company sits in the middle of where the time zone changes. And so she's like,
sounds terrible.
Oh, I was like, I'm all up in it too. I'm like, they ain't even invited me into their conversation. Used to, there was a joke that would say this is an AT&T and like Sprint conversation, so see your way out. Someone knows what I'm talking about, but that's exactly how I felt. Like I felt like I've like inserted myself into these people's conversation without being asked, but I was here for it. But she says, yeah, one of our biggest issues is trying to get on the same page with the customer. And so she's like, we had to decide to just go by Central Standard Time and then adapt everywhere else because it was too hard to be like, oh, that's an Eastern time. So 3:00. She's like, 3:00 doesn't mean anything in our office.
Right,
like,
right.
That can mean lots of things. And so that was a very interesting conversation. And my point with that story is it's something that I'm not even exposed to. Right. But what I liked about it is I was really curious, like, how did you problem solve that?
Correct.
Like, how did you address that situation? Because I may not have a time zone situation, but I'm sure I have some sort of situation. And then I met another vendor that offers a service that I think Lemon Seed clients could use. So I called her outside. We spent about 15 minutes at a snack break. I was like, tell me what you do. And then you know what I said? Hey, here's my card. I'd love to visit next week when I'm back in the office. I'm going to go ahead and get someone on my team to send you my Calendly link so you can schedule a time. Because it's important that you be actionary with these networking pieces. And also another piece of networking is social media sharing. So take pictures with people that you meet and enjoy meeting new friends and people. And just kind of celebrate that a little bit. And I think it builds up some clout, like in your market, like this, they're constantly training and doing cool stuff. So,
well, and then like when you will tag other people that are in your photo, like it almost makes them feel,
oh, they included me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it makes that connection that you guys have, like, oh, I can go a little bit further the next time I see her or want to reach out to her because like she's good with me now. Like I'm not a bother to her, and vice versa. You know?
Well, you know how you feel like you see people's kids and you're like, oh, I know you.
Yeah.
And you've never met them in real life. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love your baby. I'm like, I've never met one. I saw one of my friends that I graduated high school with. So, I feel like I graduated 20 minutes ago, but I saw it and I was like, oh, I remember when she had that baby. And I was like, that baby is 8. I've never met the baby.
Well, Adley just had her birthday a few days ago, and so I made a post on social media, and my great aunt that lives in New Jersey, she commented on there, Adley, I've never met you, but I love you so much,
Yeah, but that is still true. Like, there is a way to make social friends,
No, for sure.
All right. The second thing that Emily and I felt like would be something important to help you kind of turn off the noise and make the most of this season of training and show going is implementation. So here's what you have. You probably have paralysis by analysis right now. You were like literally given so much information through a fire hose that you have tons of notes, pages and pages of notes, or they're written in books or napkins or in your phone, whatever that looks like, but they're all over the place.
Sure.
And so what I wanted to encourage you is every time you come back from a show, if you can, stop and just delegate the first 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes to just use your highlighter and go back through and highlight, like, because probably you already know what 2 or 3 things stuck out to you at those shows. Oh, I really want to get my inventory fixed. And I talked to that lady. And then you go back and say, here's her business card and here's who I talked to and here's what I'm going to do. That alone was probably worth you going to the show.
Oh, no, absolutely.
But when you come back and you're like, well, that was a good show, and you shut your book and you stick it on the file folder or you stick it on a shelf, file folder, I'm old. I'm sorry. Emily's like, what's a filing cabinet? No, I'm kidding. But when you stick those things up, you just went for social hour.
Yeah.
So if you're really going to learn, you have to come back and implement. So our word is implementation here.
Well, and so like one thing that I found is like, one, it can be like you can go to all these breakout sessions and things like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I'm taking all these notes. And oh my gosh, this is so good. Yes. But like, to be honest, like it's probably impossible to implement all 20 things
100%.
That you could. And so I would almost just say like pick one that you can be intentional and get a game plan of how am I going to get this implemented. So like what resources do I need? What team members do I need to get on board with this? How do I need to reiterate that? Picking that one thing. But then what I've also found is important is like I have to like reread over my notes because if I wait like a month to, it's like, what did I mean there?
Like, what was I talking about?
Yeah, I'm trying to jot all this down super quick, and it doesn't make any sense. But if I go back to my office, sit down and reread it, I can fill in the gaps now that I have some time to sit down to where it makes sense if I do have to reread it.
It's about being intentional with it too. But Emily brought up a good point. So that one good thing, I heard this speaker one time, and they were like, scan through your notes, and what are some easy things? Like, do I need to go buy... I need to go have some snacks in my break room because I need to liven it up. I can knock that off. Like one day I can knock that piece out. But like implementing an inventory change or changing how I'm going to track my marketing or implementing a new marketing tactic or researching a new marketing tactic, those things takes a little bit more time and intentionality. So just again, to the point, scan through those notes and say, here's a big project that would really be great to be prioritized to be done well. And then here's some simple little things that I can knock out of the park, and so implementation is important because I think it's going to show you, like, you're going to look back in a couple of months and say, man, I went to those shows, and some of you, I spent $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 to go to these shows, and here I am with nothing to show from it. So you really need to try to quantify it to yourself to make sure that you're being a good steward of your own money.
Absolutely.
Now listen, it's your money, so you're going to have a good time because you like the location, then knock yourself out.
You got the free drink tickets and the open bar,
Kill it, friend. Go for it. But I think most of you are going because you're naturally curious. And you're hungry for some guidance on some things. And so I encourage you, do not just be a receiver of the information. Be an implementer of a solution. And then last but not least, this is what I changed my word, what we were going to call it. But I'm going to call it the toss out. I know I have sat through, I love everybody, but I have sat through terrible breakout sessions.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang it, why did I come to this one? This is not what I thought it was going to be. And I really sat through it, and I tried to find little nuggets of goodness in there, but it either was not my culture, not my style, not my equipment, not my service. It's something. But a lot of times we just need to toss that out.
Sure.
Right. So go through your notes, and some of it's just it was a great idea, but you're just not going to get to it, or it's just not important, or it's not applicable to you in some form or fashion.
And I think you just have to kind of know yourself and be reflective on that to know, okay, just because someone else said it and it works for them, it doesn't have to necessarily, you don't have to adopt everything. So I'm reading a book right now. I'm rereading a book right now just because I really like it and enjoy it. And I really only believe about or relate to about 75% of what the book is saying. But I like that I can say I really like this 75%. This is absolutely good content. Some of these, it's not going to work for Lemon Seed. I can't implement that part. But it's good to be able to self-analyze and know to adapt it for yourself, Yeah,
and I think an important piece for this is understanding that this is a conversation I had with a contractor yesterday. Things are not always as they appear. So when you're listening to a speaker on the stage, you automatically assume, oh my gosh, they're so successful.
Yeah.
And then I've seen some of my own contractors speaking on stages that I love and are wonderful people that are running $2 million companies, which kudos to them to be a $2 million company. But you're over here as a $5 million company, and you're trying to process what they're saying, and it doesn't make sense to you scale-wise. Toss it out.
Yeah,
it wasn't applicable to you. It doesn't mean that the speaker was bad, but when you start putting all the pieces together, you're like, that's just not going to work for me. And not in a negative way. You have to receive it, analyze it, and then kick it out. Kick it out or kick it over, something. But you can't just let things linger, I think. And so, I'll give a good example. So Emily and I have talked a few times about all these different ways that people can work at Lemon Seed. So you can work virtually, you can work in office, you can work a hybrid, you can work this, you can work that. And we're constantly looking for other opinions on those things, other companies' opinions, so that we can try to pull that information in, and we'll have a 30-minute, hour, 10-minute conversation what about this? And eventually we decide, you know what, let's put a pin in that. Let's come back to that later.
Sure. Yeah,
or sometimes we're like, no, that ain't it. Well, I'll give you one, unlimited PTO. Unlimited PTO. That sounds super cool. And I'm like, I wish
my sister-in-law has unlimited PTO.
And Emily and I are always like, how can we give our team unlimited PTO? Well, you know what? We can't. Right? And we can't, at least at this point. The reason that we can't is once we got deep down into the details of what unlimited PTO meant from different particular people, it's really not unlimited. And it's actually almost more restrictive than some of the ways that we are now.
No, absolutely. She said it's almost because you have unlimited and you can take off, you're almost guilty to take off. It's not really like yours. If you had your 2 weeks, that's my 2 weeks. I know I can take them.
Yeah.
When it's unlimited, am I using it enough? Am I using it too much? No one really knows.
Well, and then people will tell you have the abusers, and then everybody else is coming up trying to fix their work, and then you got to get rid of those people. I have seen time and time again the term unlimited. So unlimited doesn't mean that you can't look at beefing up your benefits plans, but that's an example for me and Emily specifically. But when I'm looking at those things, it's just we have to look at other opinions on things, and I'll be honest, and Emily and I sometimes we're kind of different on things. I'm from the old school. Put me in a room with people that I work with. I love it. I love the culture. I like chatting over lunch and being able to walk to your cubicle. I like that. But Emily has a little bit more of a forward thinking way. It's not that bad. And then we have a great team that works for us virtually, remote. We have no trouble with them, and they're actually great team members. They do fantastic things. So it has changed my mind on a lot of things. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been some craziness, but there's also the majority of it. I can't base everything off the outliers either.
Correct.
That's a whole nother episode.
Well, and there's nothing that is 100% completely black or white. It's just how to find the pieces that you can implement. And just because you implement it now doesn't mean that it has to be that way forever. Well, you can change it. You can.
Well, some of y'all are dead set against performance pay for technicians. That's fine. It's your company. But have you actually weighed the options? And if you did and you were like, nope, I'm going to stay with hourly pay, then kick out. Stop revisiting those things. Because what happens is, my bad. What happens is we get caught in this whirlwind of all these ideas, and literally in my mind right now I can visualize all these ideas going around you, how efficient are you, how profitable are you, what are your margins, are you going to get bought by private equity, do you sell to somebody that you work with, how do I help people make more money? I firmly believe the majority of people, especially those listening to this podcast, are people that want their own team members to be successful. And you know what, it sucks and it's extremely hard to manage. But I've just learned some things I have to receive and then I have to kick them out. Mary Kelly was at Women in HVAC, and she spoke about virtual
remote workers.
Yes, remote workers, and how some of them, what was it, Emily?
I think she said 70 or 80% have a second job, a second virtual job.
Yes, have a second virtual job because they're double working, or there was a term for it.
They're logged in to both their accounts, but they're only half doing the work for each two companies.
And it's because that world has gotten so easy to win. The other thing is people that work remotely or virtually, a lot of times their work environment is not near the same. So you know, when you look at people that retired from a school system for 25 years, you know what they're more sad about? Yes, they love the kids. But you know what they're more sad to leave? Their coworkers. Because every single day you laugh together, you cry together, you celebrate together, you eat together. There is something about the personal connection. So again, we have to receive new things, and we have to evaluate existing things to see what works better. So we just wanted to encourage you guys, what's not applicable to you after you've evaluated it, kick it out, get rid of all that fluff so that you can hone in on the group of things that are possible for you and that you do wish to implement, and then go for those things. So to recap really quick, the 3 things. Number 1 was networking. Meet those people. Write down those people and engage with those people.
Number 2 is implementation. Pick that 1 or 2 things that you're going to actually apply. Do the due diligence and researching it and getting the resources to make that happen, but actually do something with your time spent.
Get off your booty. And last but not least was toss it out. So go through, discern what you need, keep what you're going to try to be successful at, and go for it and really make the most of the money and the time spent away. So thank you for listening to another episode of From the Yellow Chair. We are always so glad that you guys are here. We really would love to have a review from you guys wherever you listen to podcast episodes, or follow us on all of our social media channels. We love to hear from you guys. Please, if you see us at shows, it has become mine and Emily's favorite thing. We love when people come up and tell us that they listen to the show. It means so much to us.
Absolutely.
It literally fuels us to come down here and record more episodes. And so thank you guys so much. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Until then,
we'll see you next time.